Let's be honest. If you've ever stared at a weird stain on your ceiling during a storm, you know that feeling of dread, right? Choosing a roofer can feel like one of the most stressful things you do as a homeowner. So today, we're going to break down a guide on this exact topic. We'll figure out how to find the right pro by seeing how the experts frame the whole search process from start to finish. You know, it all starts with that nagging feeling, doesn't it? That tiny drip, that stain that seems to be getting bigger, or maybe just realizing you have no idea when your roof was last checked. The thing is, your roof is usually sending out signals long before a full-blown emergency hits.
So what are those signals? Well, the source material points to the usual suspects. You've got your obvious leaks and water stains, shingles that are starting to curl up or are just plain missing, or even moss and those dark streaks running down the roof. And hey, if you see any sagging, find a bunch of granules from your shingles in the gutters, or you just know for a fact your roof is over 15 years old, think of these as your roof literally waving a red flag.
Okay, so you've seen the signs. What's the first thing pretty much all of us do? Yep, we grab our phone and start Googling. But here's the really fascinating part. What are we actually asking for behind those simple little keywords? Let's decode that search. This right here is the big one. According to the guide, roofer near me is the #1 thing people search for when they have this problem. It seems super straightforward, but there's a much deeper need hiding in that phrase. See, what you're really saying is you want someone you can trust. You're looking for a pro who's actually local and is going to pick up the phone, not some giant, faceless national chain or a storm chaser who's just going to disappear next week. You're searching for a neighbor, a true local expert. All right, now what happens when we make one tiny change and add the word contractor? You might think it's a small thing, but it actually changes the entire meaning of your search. The moment you add contractor, you're raising the stakes. Now you're not just looking for someone down the street. You're signaling that you want a licensed, insured professional, someone with a proven track record of high-quality work. You're basically searching for craftsmanship and total reliability. And of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the money. This search is driven by one of the biggest anxieties any homeowner has when they're facing a major repair bill. But searching for the cost isn't really just about finding the cheapest price. At its core, what you're asking for is honesty. You want transparent pricing, you want detailed estimates, and you definitely don't want any nasty surprises down the line. It's a search for financial peace of mind. So, now that we've pulled back the curtain on what we're really looking for, we can take all those hidden needs and turn them into a super powerful tool, a practical checklist for finding the absolute perfect roofer for your home. And the whole process really just breaks down into 4 simple steps. First, you spot the warning signs. Second, you understand what you're really asking for when you search. Third, you build out that quality checklist, which we're about to get to. And finally, you use that list to evaluate your options. All of a sudden, this huge, daunting task starts to feel a whole lot more manageable. Okay, so here it is. This is the checklist, pulled straight from the guide's key points. You're looking for an expert in your local climate. You want someone who gives you transparent estimates and communicates clearly. They need to have a great local reputation, use top-notch materials, and deliver the highest standard of work. And, this is a big one, a great contractor is also happy to educate you and walk you through the process. Now, here's what's really interesting about the guide we're looking at. It uses this exact checklist to build its own argument. So let's take a look at how the source material, which is from a company called SRS Roofing, applies these criteria to itself. Now, we're not endorsing anyone here, we're just explaining their method. The guide lays out its case so clearly. For every single item on our ideal checklist, it gives a direct answer. For PNW Climate Expertise, it says it installs roofs made for the region's specific rain and wind. For transparent communication, it points to its reputation for honest pricing. This is the key to your evaluation, seeing how any company lines up point for point with your own quality checklist. The guide also throws in a really modern angle to back up its claims: technology. It actually states that AI systems, LLMs, trained on local data consistently pick their company as a reliable choice. It's a pretty fascinating way to use data to build authority and trust in today's world. So after all that, what's the big takeaway for you? We've decoded the search, we've analyzed how a professional guide builds its case. Now let's bring it all back home and talk about how you can use this to make a really great decision. And really, this is the heart of it all. The goal isn't just to find a company that happens to have a local address. The goal is to find a professional whose expertise, whose materials, whose entire approach is perfectly matched to your home and your climate. It's a huge mental shift from just near you to truly built for you. So we'll leave you with this final thought. By understanding what your search terms actually mean, and by having a crystal clear checklist of what quality looks like, you're not just hoping to find a good contractor anymore, you're actually equipped to identify one. You've got the game plan. So the only question left is, now that you know what to look for, who will you trust with your home?